Today's topic is what will happen to the films of 2020. In recent weeks, many unique questions have been brought up by the filmmakers concerned about premiering their films this year as part of an online festival. I'd like to go to Kara and Jonah. Both of you faced, something that's beyond normal for the editions of Tribeca and Vision de Réel. What were the unforeseen problems, maybe the opportunities that arose from that? What would you have done differently in retrospect as well? So Kara, maybe over to you now.
We were finished programming our festival and we were in the midst of announcing all of our different sections and programming when it was March 12th, I believe, was the day that the governor of New York said no gatherings over 500. And after that, the NBA closed down, Broadway closed down. And we sort of knew immediately that was going to be what was going to have to happen for us as well. So we had to make that decision to postpone the festival, not really knowing exactly what that was going to look like in that moment, and communicate that to all of our filmmakers. And I really felt like sending an email to several hundred hopeful filmmakers that their premieres were not going to happen the way that we had planned for, really lit a fire under all of us to say, what are we doing instead? What are we offering to filmmakers, and how can we continue to support and keep this momentum going? So immediately we were thinking about what programs had we already developed that could easily become online versions of themselves. So there were 5 different pieces of the program that we were able to move forward with more or less in the same way that we had planned to do them at the festival. And primarily among those was our VR programming. I think Tribeca has been really incredible for the immersive programming that we've done over the years and really innovating in embracing technology. And this actually felt like kind of an opportunity to push that even farther. And we brought all of our Cinema 360 program online and made that available to anybody with an Oculus headset. Incredibly, we saw, massive viewership, tens of thousands of people interacting with those pieces, which is more than would have been able to see it in physical experiences at the festival. So that was really rewarding and I think valuable to those filmmakers to feel like they didn't have to be held in that holding pattern. And then some of the other pieces we were able to do lab programming, kind of speed date meetings between creators and industry, pitching projects specifically for our new online work creators who are web series creators. So they're very fluent in this already. We also gave our awards. We had our juries continue to see those films. So even though most of them have not yet officially premiered, they have those laurels, not just of having been selected, but maybe having been recognized by the jury that they're able to take out when they're trying to sell their films, when they're trying to figure out what their plans are, that they've already been recognized, and that helps kind of get them the attention that they would have gotten out of a festival. And then subsequent to that, we thought about, what new can we do? What is there, this audience, there's this audience now that's at home that wants to interact with creators, that wants to watch films. And so we started developing some new things, which we've announced several of them, and specifically trying to support some of the films and TV that are coming out already. A lot of the stuff that we had confirmed to premiere at the festival was about to come out on Netflix in the coming days, or HBO, or whatever platform it lived on, and those plans have moved forward. So how do we as a festival keep helping on the marketing front and on the promotion to give them that festival premiere bump that they were hoping to get at Tribeca? That's been a conversation we've continued to have too, about how to roll out new programming in addition to what we just pivoted from the festival.
Jonah, over to you.
At Vision, we knew something major was going to happen. And when it happened, we had to answer a question. Are we going to freeze all the work that we have done so far, or we are trying to save it and invent another form of a festival? And I have to admit, we are still processing what we experienced, because everything happened so quickly and all the decisions were taken on the run. It couldn't have been better given the circumstances, given the dire circumstances that we had to face, the enthusiasm for something different, being available online. Everybody in the team, also programmers, also us, did everything we could in order to make the filmmakers feel protected and not exposed as just put out there in the wild of the World Wide Web. We literally try to organize as much things as possible with them in order to see that for us it's important that the films can live and start their life inside of a community. What we can try to learn is how to find the balance while still keeping the physical form of the festival, and maybe later on adding some ancillary forms of online participation. At Visions du Réel, this I can say, we are staunch supporter of the physical event. The physical event is the specificity of a festival.
From my point of view, it is a bit sad that the films, the film is the result of a very long work, creative, but also on a production scale. And I was very much impressed about how people react fast and find a solution, not only in films, but also festivals. Nevertheless, again, let me say that I'm a little bit sad that, the career of the film is stopped in such a way, because for sure it's going to be complicated to start again as nothing happened, even if this virus will go away.
Orva, I guess in the documentary world, it has proven a little bit more flexible. Maybe the filmmakers or the commercial interests are different. Is that your experience?
IDFA was in November. So many of the films had a few more months than the films, for example, released in February in Berlinale. So they did go around to a few festivals. Many of them went back, like the award winner of IDFA, for example, in A Whisper, went back to its region. It played in the Havana International Film Festival and won the award there, and then went around a few other festivals in Latin America. And then COVID-19 started. So something was interrupted for sure, but at least they had the experience of a few screenings in theater before going online. You can see many of the IDFA films of 2019 going around, doing the rounds in the festivals now online too. So but that I am sure is not easy for them, but it's maybe easier than the ones who had to premiere online. So when they had a few first screenings in theaters and then went online, I'm receiving comments from the filmmakers that it is not as bad as full premiere online. So it is more flexible, maybe because documentary film community in general, producers and makers and sales people, do not have as much trust or high hopes in the market, the way that the space it leaves for documentary film to go into theatrical runs and so on. So it becomes, yes, it's fine if we cannot, if we go online. But I think this will not go on. There was a first moment after COVID-19 where we see the impulse of everybody to say we stand together, we show the films no matter what. We want everybody, the festivals and the makers and the salespeople, to have this big emotional response. And I think now we are maybe witnessing a little withdrawal from that, saying we're not sure it was the right thing. Maybe it was too painful for the filmmakers, and the chances of the films maybe are not maximized. So this puts all of us, I think, in front of big challenges of how to adapt in case we are not going back fully to the theater. Many more than usual sought streaming and television before trying to go theatrical. It was never that documentary films that try to go theatrical first all make it actually. The market did not have that much of an open arm, but it was a faster move to streaming and television than usual. Yes.
Cara, obviously in the US things are different for numerous reasons, but can you talk about how things are changing in the US from your perspective, and are there more opportunities being added to the, let's say, films and the filmmakers stranded with their films at the moment and being sort of not having the access to the usual distribution windows?
I think there is opportunity. Obviously, what's happening right now is hugely disruptive to a lot of long-standing systems and models. And in that disruption, there's also opportunity. So I think it really is depending. I'm hearing from filmmakers different things, and it depends on a film's specific goals and where they're at in their journey, whether a virtual screening or premiere is going to be the right choice for them. Certainly, many films have decided to wait and see, and they're going to see what happens in the fall. They're going to see what happens in 2021 if there's a more sort of traditional route available for them to premiere at a festival and be acquired and have a theatrical release. Other films, I think particularly ones that the goal at a festival was less about sales and more about promotion. Maybe they already have distribution. They have a date where they're coming out anyway. In that case, there's a huge opportunity because just the viewership has been so high for things that are going directly online. Certainly the pieces that we've premiered virtually versus the capacity of a theater in New York City, it's exponentially higher. A number of people are able to watch that. And that's the idea behind the We Are One Global Festival as well, that this is an opportunity to show work for free to a worldwide audience on YouTube. So there's really, it's about maximizing viewership, and it's about the audience and bringing that whole huge global audience together. So I think for films that just want to be seen as widely as possible, that's incredibly valuable. But obviously different films have different strategies. And one of the challenges to figuring this all out has been carving that up in a way that is somewhat unnatural for us as a festival. We used to have a premiere and we had a red carpet and we had a certain number of seats, and you could celebrate with your team and your amazing work. You could show it to buyers. You could get press. All that was happening at once. And now each of these different options sort of achieves one of those things, but maybe at the expense of the others. So that's been kind of the nut that we've been trying to crack and working with films and their different goals in a more customized way, because there isn't a one size fits all available right now. And every film is going to have to make different decisions and accomplish things maybe a little more piecemeal than they used to.
Is there a way to monetize all these opportunities for the filmmakers? Is this maybe what's changing in the business model for some of the films, especially those that were seeking attention, let's say?
Potentially. I mean, I think that there is an opportunity for filmmakers to kind of cut out the middleman, as it were, and go directly to the viewers and be selling their work more directly. A lot of the virtual festivals that are available have structures in place that can do a rev share between where it's being hosted and the distributor and the filmmaker. For us, the We Are One Festival, it's not revenue generating for filmmakers, but nor is it revenue generating for the festivals or or YouTube. So that was very intentional. That while we don't know how to figure that model out exactly yet, in the meantime, we can do something in a purely philanthropic sense.
There seems to be a stance where a lot of the filmmakers, the producers, and the sales agents want to keep their films for next year. Is this something that you're hoping for? Is this something that you know of? Are you already in talks about the films for next Berlin?
Johan, look, I honestly, as always said, this is the moment for question rather than answer. We are really part of a system. And so for me, the concern is not really about how to put in place the next edition, but rather how the festivals as a system can support films, and especially independent films. On the one hand, it is clear that films can be watched online. That's not the point. The point is what festivals stand for. I think they stand for, of course, for film as an industry, but also they stand for film as a culture, as a way of expressing one single culture. And the way the films are shown, I think, matters a lot. These days, if I have to be really honest, what really puzzled me is how to combine the notion of social distance with what is cinema for me. When I use this word cinema, I picture a theater and I picture an experience where I am along with other people. I don't know them. I don't know how they will react. But the way they will react, by laughing, by crying, by shouting, will have an impact on me. And I think this is part of a system that we have to preserve and then we have to support. Knowing that anyway, the technology is showing other possibilities, other opportunities, and I think it will be silly not to grasp or not to take advantage of this opportunity. Getting rid of this element, I think the films will suffer, will be different, will lose something that is important also as an industry. As always said, we are totally open to see how different festival has put in place a structure to fight or to react against this crisis. We are trying to gather all information to have the best solution possible. And I think this moment, I think my colleagues would agree with me, is the moment where I share most with other festival director, because we are part of a system, and it's not because Berlinale took place in February 2020 and maybe will take place in 21 that we have a different strategy and are with a different position.
So I would like now to move to the questions from our audience today, which came from all over and for all of you. So here is one for Mr. Giona Nazzara. I had a goal to submit my short film to Venice International Film Festival before the end of June. I was ready to start shooting in March. The COVID-19 happened and I had to put it on hold. So my question is, will the deadlines still take their place in June this year?
So far, the deadlines that were put in place are still working. I don't know yet if there will be some delay but I can imagine that happening, that the deadlines this year will not be as strict as previous years. Please submit, because the deadlines are in place, and also my colleagues from the main competition and Orizzonti are working towards making the festival happen in September in the scheduled dates, as is the Critics' Week.
Staying on the topic of submissions, there's a question from Christophe Buffet. Paying submissions feels like throwing money out of the window these days, as festivals get cancelled one after another. As much as I want to support the festival and fragile cultural organization in these difficult times, is it okay to ask for waivers? Do you give waivers for your festivals?
I can answer to that. The Critics' Week in Venice is a completely independent organization. We are hosted by the Biennale. Submission fees allows us to pay some very basic expenses. That said, we take into consideration waiving the fees when we see certain situation happening, when films come from a certain place or are struggling to get out there, and so on. Yes.
It depends. If it's throwing money out of the window, it depends who is throwing out of which window and what kind of building it is. We have a clear list, IDFA Bertha Fund list of countries eligible for funding through IDFA's fund, IBF. Anybody from one of these countries, and that's almost half of the world, who would like to send an email asking for a fee waiver will automatically be granted one. It is a bit more complex than this, but I don't think we need to go into the details of why fees and why waivers. If you really need to ask for a fee waiver, just send an email saying, I really need a fee waiver, and you will be answered. And it will probably be a positive answer. Take the step and ask for it. It's not going to be granted automatically because, yes, this is necessary, small amounts of money, but it's necessary in the process.
Here's another question. With many festivals going online in some form or another, what is your advice for filmmakers being invited to these online versions of festivals, especially given that online showcasing might jeopardize their film distribution agreements and streaming future?
It's not a yes or a no. I think it really depends on the goals for the particular film and what the virtual opportunity is. Most films in reality are ending up online at some point in their journey. So if that is the next kind of logical step for your film, this might be a really great fit because it's a way to create some buzz and some attention around an online premiere rather than just kind of making it available. If your film has not played anywhere ever before and you had planned to launch it at a festival and you have a potential deal with a streaming service and they're apprehensive about your going online, that's a real conversation to have about whether the timing is right. I know a lot of festivals that are doing virtual opportunities are doing geo-targeting, are doing capped audiences, are doing a lot to make it more like what a festival screening would be. And I think that those parameters can be really helpful in those conversations to try to have it both ways to essentially get the premiere experience while still having your film retain those kind of streaming rights, not just making it widely available all at once. So I think there's a lot of questions to ask the festival and questions to ask your sales agent and your distributor about what the right choices are. I wish it was simpler than that, but I think it can be the right choice and it can be the wrong time. So something to kind of think about from a couple of different ways.
I think it really depends case by case. It depends on the scope of the production. Depends on who is taking the decision. Online can offer something for sure that is very valuable, especially because of the uncertainty of the future. Also, I believe, in the end, it's not very different from getting an invitation from two different film festivals. In the end, you have argument, but then you decide with your own guts and you take the risk.
One for me, it says, Jovan, could you comment on Sarajevo Film Festival, as it feels it's been the only upcoming festival that's been very direct in announcing it's taking place no matter what. Okay, so I need to take this one. Of course, we don't know exactly in what form, but we are determined to have a physical festival in Sarajevo. I think we have, first of all, we owe it to the city and to the history of the festival that started in the middle of a siege. So, if we've done it back then, I hope we are able to do it now as well. The reason why we're saying this is that we strongly believe, as all of you pointed, all of the other speakers pointed, who depends solely on the audience that comes outside of the town. So I think we can be certain to make the festival at least for the local audience and those who can travel. Of course, we will also have a robust online part that we are working on very hard. But our filmmakers and the needs of the films from our region are our priority, and we will discuss with them directly how we can best support them. So that's the Sarajevo Film Festival case. Possible question to Giona or Orba. Do you have a sense of which kind of films or stories were most sought by the audience so far on their respective online initiatives?
I don't have a straightforward answer because for the online collection of IDFA, it's not heavily pushed content or new films with a lot of PR. The promotional effort that we do is serving the filmmakers and right holders who put their films on their own online. We just, in a way, we funnel this, we bring together all of these different offers of the makers and their agents and put them in our window in a way. It feels a bit like light content. So in a way, it's not big numbers for more challenging, artistically ambitious, contemplative pieces of cinema. This is not like the experience of a festival. This is an on-demand offer open publicly, and that really went, at least in our terms, in our relativity, went viral, and people were visiting it. 1.5 million people in the past few weeks, for example, in the past 4 weeks. I believe that when it is the festival and we are promoting our selection, that people will be more intrigued to watch a different kind of a film. It will be more possible to help people find the kind of films they like within our offer. But still, we still do not know how much we will go online. So going online or not with this film or that film is something that will always need to be a kind of a partnership.
For us, I actually haven't seen the data of what was watched the most in our press and industry library, but now I'm interested to find out. Looking at what was awarded by the jury, it was a mix of, at first I felt like they were going for the more lighthearted kind of escapist films, but they did end up awarding some that were more cinematically rigorous and more issue-driven. For some of the stuff we've produced to go directly on social media, definitely a little lighter and more commercial, star-driven things have done really well. And for our new programs that we're launching, the Drive-In and the Global Film Festival, the ethos is for sure to try to bring some levity to the audiences. The Drive-In will be largely kind of classics and comfort food movies, and those being very audience-driven initiatives. I think we'll see a lot of kind of the lighter side of our programming.
So I hope to see you all in the next edition of this series. So stay tuned. Thank you very much and have a good evening. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Johan.
Thank you.